Hey guys, Simon and Alex here from Top Tennis Training, and welcome to video number 1 from our two-handed backhand course.
In this video we're going to discuss the 3 simple steps to the perfect double-handed backhand.
Now, the first thing to discuss is when you're waiting on the baseline, which grip should you hold the racket with?
Now when Simon's in the ready position, you can see that he's using his forehand grip, and this is most common for the players around the world. The top hand, so it's his left hand, is on top of the racket, it's near the throat of the racket, and some players vary it depending on how they hit the ball, how high or low it is. He's still using the forehand grip for his right hand. When Simon recognizes that the ball goes to his backhand, he will use his left hand to change the grip and turn the racket in his right hand into a backhand grip. The grip will then become a chopper grip with the right hand. Imagine holding a hammer or trying to hit the bottom side of your racket onto the court. Now you have the chopper grip. The top hand will slide down the racket and become a left-handed forehand. So the left hand will be from the side of the racket, giving an impression of a left-handed forehand, a semi-western grip on the left hand. So it's the chopper grip with the right hand and the semi-western grip with the left hand. And to make it easier, we're going to come from the top of the racket with the right hand and from the side of the racket with the left hand. Again, the left hand will slide down the racket the moment Simon recognizes that the ball is going to his backhand. That left hand will make the necessary turn to get his right hand into the right grip and then make the ready adjustment to be able to hit the shot. Now let's go back to our 3 simple steps that we're going to talk about today.
So step number 1 is recognizing where the ball's going, and as soon as you recognize that it is coming to your backhand, that first step is getting this right shoulder turned sideways onto the ball and moving to the ball sideways on. The most common issue that we see with most players in that first step is that they start moving to the ball with side steps and they're facing the net in that position.
So you really want to get the right shoulder turned. Notice how Simon's foot, his back heel actually comes off the ground, and it allows his right knee to actually allow him to rotate. If you don't lift that foot, it's very tough to put the shoulder across your body. So make sure that you're lifting up that heel, giving that turn fully, and then you're going to step forward with the right foot.
Now when you're moving to the ball, regardless of the footwork pattern you're going to use, you want that right shoulder facing the ball, facing the net, and you want to almost have your chin resting on your right shoulder when you're moving to the ball. This will allow for that good unit turn, that good body turn, and then when you start the forward phase of the swing, that great rotational power.
Remember guys, the power comes from the trunk of the body, so you want to use as much of that as possible, and what better way to do that than to actually pre-turn, so you wind up the coil, you coil up, and then you release when you're hitting it.
Now I haven't done anything with my racket up to this point. Everything has come from that shoulder turn, from that unit turn. So at the start I'm sliding down the left hand, I'm changing the grips, and I'm turning my upper body. My racket hasn't gone back at all. Everything is controlled with my shoulders and with my hips.
Step number 2, reaching the power position.
Now the power position happens on every single stroke. So if we look at the serve, we reach this trophy position. If we look at the forehand, we reach this kind of back position here, and it happens on the double hander as well. But what is the perfect power position?
Now, having studied the best players in the world, the best double handers in the world, we quickly realized that they all have a common trait in their power position.
Now if you watch players like Agassi and Djokovic, most of them have the racket head much higher than the grip level when they're waiting in that power position. Some players do have the racket down, but that doesn't generate the leverage that you want. So we recommend reaching a position where the racket head is higher than the grip level, as you can see in this position here, and the strings are neither closed or open. They're in that neutral position, and a very easy way to find this is by doing a very simple drill. Now, a very good drill to find that perfect power position is by doing this. Alex is starting in the ready position. He's going to turn his upper body and his hips. As you can see, he's using that right knee as well to pivot. The right foot is coming off the ground, so the heel of the right foot is coming off the ground to help with that pivot and that turn. Now you can see the racket head is much higher than the grip and the strings are flat against the fence. This is exactly what we want to reach in that power position. And you can repeat this process over and over again until you start feeling confident that you can reach that position without having to have the guide of the fence or wall. So Alex might do 20 or 30 of these until he starts feeling confident, and then we'll do it on the court. And once he starts reaching that position, I'll start hand feeding him balls so he can hit the ball from that position. Now, to show the effectiveness of this drill, we're going to have Alex demonstrate.
Now, I'm a single-hander, and for this drill I'm going to be using my two-handed backhand, which I haven't practiced, I haven't hit before, and I'm going to see how quickly I can improve hitting it with this drill.
So the focus of this drill is recreating step 1 and step 2. Once Alex is in that power position, I'm going to then hand feed the ball, because the hand feed is much easier to control than feeding from the other side. So if you're training with a coach or you're training with a training partner, make sure that they hand feed you once you reach that power position. Slow it again. Now, this drill is all about Alex reaching that power position time and time again and working from there. I'm not worried about the result, I'm not worried about the finish of the stroke. Only when he reaches that position do I feed the ball. Now Alex, how did you feel that was helping your two-hander?
Well, I felt like I could get into the right position, and I knew what I was doing, and I felt like I had the time because obviously Simon was feeding once I got into that position, so I was able to repeat the process in my mind, which made it a lot easier. So I feel like now I can actually start from the ready position and see if I can recreate it while the ball is flying to me.
Again, the focus is on reaching that power position and the good unit turn. As you can see, the backhand's already looking very good, just with those two simple steps. Perfect.
Step number 3, the finish.
Now, two important things to focus on the finish is number 1, finishing over your right shoulder if you're a right-handed player.
Now, it's important to keep this left elbow nice and high. So an easy way to remember, especially for little kids that I coach, is to have the elbow nose height. So make a big nose with your elbow. Make a big nose with your elbow when you're finishing on the backhand.
Now, the second important part to focus on the finish is to have this back foot, this is my left foot if I'm a right-handed player, coming around to aid the recovery and help with the rotation.
Now, depending on where Simon is recovering on the court, depending how far up the court he is, will depend on how far that left foot travels around. Now, if he's more up the court and has to recover backwards, that left foot will come around much more. Now he's able to push back. If he's wanting to recover sideways, the foot will come to the side. And similarly, if he's moving backwards, he's now leaving that foot behind, so then he can recover forward and be in a good position for the next shot. It's important to remember that the left foot has to come around only after the stroke. Only after I make contact and I've completed my rotation will that left foot come around to complete and help me rotate. What I don't want to do is to just pivot on that foot and rotate while I'm moving my left foot. This will encourage me to just pivot on my foot it will take away the use of my obliques, the use of my sides, the use of my rotation, and that's one of my primary power sources. So if you take that out of the shot, you'll feel weak and you'll probably end up missing the ball. Now we don't want to leave that back foot behind if we want to generate power. Now if we're taking power, if our opponent's hitting the ball hard, the power's already on the ball, we can leave it behind and we can either stroke the ball or we can jab the ball, and we can leave that foot behind because the power's already on the ball. But if we're generating, we want to use as much of our muscles, as much of the rotation as possible to hit the ball effectively. Now many coaches neglect the use of the left hand, and this is the main driving force for the production of spin on that shot.
Now if you think about it from a technical point of view, I want to hit this shot like a left-handed forehand when I'm hitting my two-hander. So when I want more spin, I want this left hand to be the boss, controlling the racket path.
Now the racket head speed will be very important, and the left wrist is the wrist that generates that racket head speed.
So a great way to increase the topspin on your two-handed backhand is by getting this left hand, this top hand, much stronger, and we're going to show you some drills in this video. Now in the first part of this drill, I'm holding the racket the same way I would with the two hands. I'm taking off my right hand and I'm practicing left-handed forehands with this grip. It's important that I don't hold the bottom of the racket. I'm holding the grip in the same position as I would for my two hands. I'm also working on my left leg driving up, and this is going to help me later on, as you'll see. So the left foot and the left hand, that's all I'm working on in this drill. Now the reason we work from this left leg and not the right leg is because every backhand stroke that you're going to hit, if you're going to go neutral stance, if you're going to go semi-open or open, it all starts with this left leg. Especially at the start of the swing, you open up your hip and that left leg is the first step that you go towards the ball. So we want this left leg stronger, and we want that left leg building the balance so that later on we can either step in if we have time, or we can go in the semi-open or the open stance. Now most players, they are right leg dominant if they're right-handers, so the first step that they normally take is that right foot going forward, and they've already transferred their weight onto that front foot. What we want on the two-handed backhand is the body weight on the back foot, able to then transfer through the shot when we're hitting the ball. Now that was part one to the drill, working on getting that left leg more balanced and working on this top hand doing more work. So now I'll focus on my spin, generating more top spin, and I'm going to be using the windshield wiper motion where the top of the racket is dropping below the ball level, I'm hitting the ball, and then I'm brushing over the ball like so. So let's take a look. And all I'm focusing on is brushing the back of the ball and generating as much spin as I can with that left hand only. Now I'm going to be focusing on using that neutral stance. I'm going to be loading on that left foot. I'm going to be stepping in and then coming around just like you learned in video number 1 to this course. Still again focusing on that top spin and focusing on my finish, coming all the way around with my racket. Now part 3 to this drill is now doing alternating between the left hand and the two hands. So on shot 1, I'm hitting that left hand, focusing again on that windshield wiper motion, and then on the second ball, I'm focusing again with that left hand, but with two hands on the grip. So let's take a look. Now alternating between the shots will make Simon retrieve the information and will make it easier for him to learn, and he'll learn a lot quicker than if he was just to hit it with two hands or with only the one hand. Now in this part, all I'm focusing on is generating the top spin with both hands. So I'm starting off in the ready position. I'm doing exactly what we've done in video number 1. I'm rotating my upper body, I'm loading up on my left foot, and I'm going to be focusing a lot on this racket head dropping below the height of the ball. So if the ball's at this level, my racket head is dropping down below it, and then I'm focusing on brushing up and coming over my right shoulder. because I've worked on that left hand, I feel a lot stronger in generating that topspin, and this is something that you could add to your own game.
Now left wrist under right wrist, so left hand below right, is what's going to help you drop that racket below the height of the ball. If you remain with the left wrist above the right, the left hand above the right, you won't be able to hit the same kind of topspin as if you would if you relax your hand. So the hand relaxation is very important when generating that topspin, especially at the beginning of the stroke. So you need to really relax under the ball and then tense up as quickly as you can. So it's left below, left above the right, which will give you that kind of fast move that will generate the spin. Now there are three main power sources on the backhand. We have the rotational power, we have the momentum going through the ball, so the linear transition into the ball, and we also have the racket speed, which is generated by our shoulders, our arms and our wrists. Now the first power source we're going to look at is the rotational power. Now let's have a look at Simon rotating his shoulders, separating his shoulders from his hips to generate that power. As you can see, he's using his outside leg, so that's his left foot is out and he's in an open stance position. He's going to rotate and use his upper body and separate the shoulders from the hips to generate the power. He can also do this from a neutral position. So now he's going to step forward after that rotation, and that way he's also able to generate the power when the ball is coming straight at him. There you have it, guys. Open stance and neutral stance with rotation. Now a great way to increase power on this coil and uncoil motion is to use the medicine ball.
Now the medicine ball is used by top professionals around the world, and they use it on a daily basis to increase that rotational power from the core.
Now let's take a look at some medicine ball drills you can use to increase power on the backhand. In the first part of the drill, Simon's going to be using his open stance to throw the medicine ball back at me in the same move that he'd use on a backhand. So he's loading that outside leg and he's coiling and uncoiling. Load the outside leg, coil and uncoil. Perfect. Now Simon is going to do the same thing, but after the coil, he's going to step forward to recreate the neutral stance and uncoil after that. Coil, step, uncoil. Coil, step, uncoil. Coil, step, uncoil. Now to improve coordination for that coil and uncoil motion, we're going to use the ladder. So Simon's going to move through the ladder, at the end of which I'm going to feed him the ball. He's going to use his rotation, then he's going to step forward, use the neutral stance to throw the ball back at me. We're then going to repeat the process, but then I'm going to throw him a wider ball where he uses the open stance to hit the same ball back to me. There are different footwork patterns involved, which you can learn in the full course. For now, we're just going to show you a few here. Notice the recovery step that Simon's taking to recreate the movement that you'll have during the point. He's still using the shoulder rotation and the coil and uncoil to throw the ball harder at me. Remember, we're increasing power here, so that coil and uncoil is the biggest power source for this drill. Now let's take a look at Simon doing the same drill, but now I'm going to feed a little bit wider, and Simon is going to use his open stance and a footwork pattern that again you're going to learn inside the full course. There Simon was using his open stance to load the outside leg and use his other leg to uncoil. The knee was coming out and his shoulders were opening up in order to throw the ball faster at me. Now we're going to work on balance and stability, especially for the outside leg, so you're able to rotate the shoulders and generate that power with the rotation and the coil and uncoil motion that we saw earlier. This is a great example of something you can do in order to be stable, balanced and also coordinated for the shot. Now Simon is sticking the landing, but he's also rotating those shoulders to generate the power and then pushing back off the outside leg. Now we're going to use the hurdles to jump from left to right. This is particularly useful on the return, and it's also useful for when you have those short balls to put away. You need to have the power of the rotation and also the balance in your legs. So let's have a look at Simon doing it now. So there Simon was using his outside leg to push away from the court. He was using his left leg to stabilize, and then he was using that left leg with the coil and uncoil motion to jump forward over the last hurdle and stabilize at the end. We're now going to involve the split step. This is again relevant for that return. Simon's going to jump over the hurdle to simulate the split step. He's going to push out with an open hip onto his left foot, and then he's going to stabilize and push off with his right, again generating that power with the coil and uncoil, but using his legs in the process. Now it's important that you time your feed for when Simon lands. I would be throwing, because I don't want him to hang around there for too long. This is again very useful for opening up the outside leg, giving you wider distances on the return. Now let's do it with the ball and the racket and recreate those movements. Here Simon is using the left to left motion, using his outside leg to coil around and uncoil. Now Simon is going to use his left to right, so now he's going to be in a neutral position going forward to the ball. And for the last example, this would be relevant for the return or a ball that you have to put away when it's a little bit shorter. He's going to use his left to right motion.
Are you tired of losing matches due to an inconsistent backhand?
Do you struggle to get power on that wing?
Do you feel like you have a big hole in that part of your game that your opponents are exposing on the big points?
Well, fear no more. We have the solutions to all of these problems, including many more, inside our backhand course.
We will teach you the grips you should be using, a full technical breakdown of the stroke, movement patterns and drills that you can start using today to improve. Now, when you think about the best double-handed backhands, you think of players like Andre Agassi, Marat Safin, Novak Djokovic and Andy Murray. But another player that stands out is David Nalbandian.
David Nalbandian was former world number 3, Wimbledon finalist and ATP World Tour final champion. He has beaten players like Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, Agassi. He's beaten them all. And most of all, he was known for having one of the best backhands in the world.
So to help you with your problems, we flew all the way to Argentina and spent a week with the legend himself, David Nalbandian.
Now this is a no-brainer. Where else are you going to get this opportunity of a lifetime to learn the secrets of the backhand than from the best backhand of all time?
So if you're ready to take your weakness and turn it into a strength, then click the button down below and we'll see you at lesson number 1 with David himself.